Hello there, good evening. Welcome to Look North, our top story tonight. A charity warns Yorkshire renters are living in the worst housing conditions in England.
Something could so easily be done about this and could have such a huge impact on the lives of so many people.
We'll ask why the situation is so bad here. Also tonight, why schools and nurseries are having to brush up on dental hygiene as a jaw-dropping number of children in our region need teeth extractions. Make the people around you smile. The message of hope from a teenager from Rotherham who died of cancer at the age of 19. We meet the country's oldest football referee at 90 years young and no plans to hang up his boots yet.
And you've guessed it, yes, there is more rain on the way, but temperatures are on the up. Join me for that weekend forecast.
Hello, hope you had a lovely weekend. Thanks for joining us on Monday's programme. People renting properties in Yorkshire face the worst housing conditions in England. That's according to research released today. Analysis from the People's Health Trust shows that tenants in our region are almost twice as likely than the national average to live in poor housing conditions. Now, the charity claims that more than 150,000 privately rented properties do not meet the Decent Homes standard. Nationally, 21% of all tenants have inadequate housing, but in our region, it's 38%. Tenants in Yorkshire also face the worst rates of damp and mould in the country too. 23% of private rented homes here contain damp and mould compared to 9% overall. So why is this? Phil Bodmer has our top story.
It's a story Look North has covered extensively in recent years. The impact of substandard housing on human health. Last May, we reported the case of a family from Sheffield. Their flat is damp and there's mould in bedding, on the walls and under the carpet.
The damp and bad smells affect all of our health, especially my two sons.
But Saeed and his family are far from alone. Tatiana's rented accommodation in Keighley also suffered from damp. She asked for the mould to be removed before she moved in, but says it was just wiped away and painted over. She's asthmatic. Her autistic son suffered a lung infection and had to be treated in hospital.
It was freezing inside. You could see our breath whenever we were breathing. The oven was covered in mould. You know, a house has to be damp for the oven to actually get mould inside it. It was disgusting.
Tatiana says the mould has now gone. The managing agents told us we take reports of damp and mould seriously and ensure landlords are immediately informed of a report of damp. In this instance, underlying issues were identified and the tenant was given the option to receive a full deposit refund and to be released from their tenancy, but made the decision to stay whilst the works were completed. Today's report shows tenants in Yorkshire face the worst rates of mould and damp in the country.
A big factor in it, we believe, is also that councils just simply don't have the money to enforce the kind of standards that they want to. So this creates a problem, and it continues and continues. And that's why we're calling on the government today to properly resource the enforcement of housing conditions across England, and particularly in Yorkshire and the Humber, where these are the worst in the country.
That's a view echoed by those calling for better minimum standards.
I feel really disgusted that there are families that are living in a situation which is so controllable. Something could so easily be done about this and could have such a huge impact on the lives of so many people.
The government says it's introducing new powers to hold landlords to account for poor housing and giving local authorities the ability to issue fines of up to £5,000. For people like Saeed and Tatiana, those reforms can't come soon enough. Phil Bodmer, BBC Look North.
Next night, a manhunt is underway for a killer who stabbed their victim to death in a Sheffield park. 24-year-old Sakad Ali died at the Ponderosa on Saturday morning, but nobody has been arrested. Ollie Constable reports from the scene.
It was just over my shoulder in the early hours of Saturday where Sakad Ali died. At about 4:30, he'd been found with multiple stab wounds, and despite the work by police and paramedics, he was declared dead at the scene. Mr. Ali's death prompted a huge police response, with much of the Ponderosa here being cordoned off for 2 days. A murder investigation was launched, and police told me this afternoon nobody has been arrested in connection with Mr. Ali's death. Detective Chief Inspector Ben Wood had said this was a truly horrific murder that cut short the life of a young man. He said detectives were working around the clock to bring arrests in this case. Today, with flowers being placed on the bench near to where Mr. Ali died, the murderer remains at large. Extra police patrols have been in the area to reassure residents, and people with information have been asked to get in touch with police so Mr. Ali's family can get justice. Ollie Constable, BBC Look North, at the Ponderosa in Sheffield.
Meanwhile, 2 people have been arrested on suspicion of murder after a man died in Leeds. Police were called to Smithson Street in Rothwell at about 10 o'clock on Saturday night. They say there'd been a disturbance there beforehand. A man in his 40s was taken to hospital and then pronounced dead. A 48-year-old man and a 46-year-old woman are in custody. You're watching Monday's Look North, still to come on tonight's programme. We hear from the comedian and political commentator Jeff Norcott, who's been looking into whether university is worth the money. Before that, though, schools and nurseries are being asked to step in to help improve the poor dental health of young people. Children and teenagers in Yorkshire are more likely to need a hospital admission to have their teeth removed than anywhere else in England. That's according to government statistics. Kathy Killick has been to see how one scheme in Barnsley is trying to help children develop good habits early on.
Up and down and round until they're shiny and bright.
It's never too early to start looking after your teeth, and at this family hub in Barnsley, teeth cleaning is part of the daily routine. 2-year-old Corley is the third in his family to learn about oral hygiene in this way. For his mother, Megan, coping with 4 children, 3 of whom have special needs, these sessions have made a big difference.
It makes that difference to us at home so that we know that they're getting their education out of the teeth brushing. And yeah, obviously my youngest is only 2, but he's still learning it's important to brush your teeth and the enjoyment of brushing teeth, which I'm really grateful for.
Nearly 30% of 5-year-olds in Barnsley have tooth decay, hence these sessions. But across Yorkshire, children's dental health is suffering, leading to more emergency treatment in hospital. For families in deprived areas, private dentistry is unaffordable and NHS dentistry can be hard to access. And this type of surgery can be the result.
There's an access issue. You've got people that aren't really able to get dentists. You've got low educations, you've got people that aren't probably registered or getting regular access to other healthcare services, so things aren't being spotted. If they're not registered, they're not having a checkup, you're going to get a knock on the door, somebody requesting that I've got a child in severe pain, got an emergency, and that can only be dealt with through extraction.
One of the good things that Barnsley's recognised and working with, they are now going to introduce toothbrushing in all schools, and they're going to fund that as well. So the good work that we've started within our family hubs will continue now through primary school as well, which is absolutely fantastic.
The nursery sessions have been going 6 years, embedding good habits in hundreds of children and their families. It's hoped that extending that into schools will lead to fewer extractions, prevention always being better than cure. Kathy Killick, BBC Look North, Barnsley.
Let's take a look at a couple of other stories coming into our newsroom today. 2 men have gone on trial for the murder of a man in Barnsley last September. 35-year-old Carl Nixon died after being stabbed during a violent fight at a house in Worsborough after he reportedly took a packet of tablets from a woman's handbag. 25-year-old Liam Shaw and 26-year-old Daniel Cheetham both deny murder. The trial continues. A cannabis farm has been found by police in Harrogate. Officers discovered nearly 500 plants at a property on Hayra Street with an estimated value of over £200,000. A 56-year-old man has been arrested and is due in court next month. Now, a film about a teenager from Rotherham who died of cancer at the age of just 19 has been shortlisted for a national award. Lulu Blundell died at home on New Year's Day last year. The film is made of videos from Lulu's social media accounts. Her mother, Caroline, narrates with extracts of her daughter's post. Here's a look at the film.
For the last 3 months, I've been living, breathing and feeling probably most people's worst nightmare. I'm sure everyone who follows me vaguely knows I was diagnosed with cancer when I was 15. I went through chemo and had my leg amputated, and on January the 20th, 2020, I was cancer-free. 2.5 amazing years later, full of laughs and smiles, I found out my cancer had come back. I've made the decision not to go through chemo, rather be on palliative care and keep all my pain under control until we no longer can. Despite being told I've relapsed and now being terminally ill, I've laughed and loved harder than I ever have in my life in the past few months. Happiness can be found in any situation at any point, and a pinch of kindness will never go amiss. Every single nurse, therapist, social worker that works alongside me has been my little ray of sunshine. Time and time again, through chemo, remission and relapse, they've saved my life, whether that be physically or mentally. I hope after reading this, I've inspired you to do the things you said you were going to do tomorrow. Make the people around you smile and stop worrying about the things that don't need worrying about. Life is too short.
Gosh, that's so powerful, isn't it? That was Lulu's mum, Caroline, reading those messages from her daughter before she died. Caroline has been speaking to our reporter, Mark Ansell.
She knew she wasn't going to see her 21st birthday. And when you are living with that every day, and illness, and great levels of pain, that really focuses the mind around how one needs to think about spending those last days, those last weeks, those last months. And just because you're young, you shouldn't think, oh, well, it's a hospice or it's hospital. Actually, she still wanted to do things. And the work of the charity and of some incredible medical professionals enabled her to do those things. She wanted to go to Magaluf. She wanted to go to Glastonbury Festival. She wanted to go to Manchester and London and spend as much time in Newcastle, where she'd been a student, as she possibly could. She wanted to do things with her boyfriend. They're all normal things that any 19-year-old should be able to do. But that's hard, and with significant amounts of medication to try and keep on top of pain. But she needed to go, and it was really important she was able to do that.
What difference has making the film made?
One of my greatest fears, and perhaps is the fear of any parent who loses a child, is that people stop talking about them, because for a whole host of reasons, not least because they don't know what to say. And I never wanted her to be like footprints in the sand. I never wanted her to just not have been. And so from a selfish point of view, I guess, we've really been able to enjoy, albeit that's a perverse word, but a sense of her continuing to be part of our lives and to make a difference to others.
Well, she certainly has, hasn't she? She's certainly left a legacy, and they've raised a staggering £136,000 for the Teenage Cancer Trust. And you can vote for the film Lulu Forever 19 on Smiley Charity Film Awards website until tomorrow. Now, is university worth it? You may have your own opinions on the subject, and it's the name of a BBC documentary fronted by comedian and political commentator Jeff Norcott. In it, Jeff travels the country meeting students and politicians in a bid to decide if he should be saving up for his son's higher education now or just spend the cash on a new car for himself. We'll hear from Jeff in a moment, but first, here's a snippet from his time in Sheffield.
I mean, 350 societies, that's a lot.
There's so much going on.
What kind of societies and activities do you have going on that you think somebody like me might enjoy?
Lager club, whiskey and lager club.
We offer so many, sober socials, non-drinking events. There's board game societies, there's computer gaming society.
An allotment society, Kaylee society.
Samba.
For duck society, so we do anything related to ducks.
That's the society, is feeding ducks?
Yep. Basically, yeah.
Duck society? Sounds more like a mistake on predictive text.
Who knew there was a duck society? Jeff, lovely to meet you. Apart from that big revelation, what else did you learn from your time in Sheffield?
Well, I learned a lot. I mean, first up, Sheffield is a good example of a university. And I think the fact they were willing to let me film there and the Vice-Chancellor met me was because they're doing things well. But I found it's not like that everywhere. You know, I've been wondering recently whether or not my son should be a plumber. You know, I want him to have a trade, you know, something that he can earn money directly in, because degrees are arguably not as valuable as they were since more people are doing them.
But arguably, some jobs can't be done without higher education, can they? For example, a doctor or a vet.
Yeah, and as we acknowledged in the film, of course, those things would always need a certain level of qualification. But kids today are taking on debt, which is just not in the same ballpark as the kind of money that, you know, my generation was spending to get a degree.
Do you think you'd be doing what you're doing now if you hadn't gone to uni, Jeff?
Well, I did English and I ended up being an English teacher, so there was a direct relationship. And I'm not saying for 1 second, look, all of those things were of great benefit to me. I enjoyed doing the course. But, you know, if the same calculation, if I had to pay £9 grand a year, I've got to be honest, if that was me now, if I was 18 years old now, I probably wouldn't do it.
And the bar's pretty high, isn't it? Because, as you say, students are ending up in a lot of debt. So are they satisfied with what they're getting for the money?
Well, I mean, it was interesting to speak to students. You know, a recent poll found that 2/3 felt it wasn't value for money. There's been a movement called I Want a Refund, and there's a lot of people actually taking their universities to court because of what happened during COVID. So it was interesting. The further I scratched beneath the surface of the higher education sector, it found that there was a fair bit of anger. People still love the subject and the uni life. But also, you know, they're paying a lot for it and they're not getting as much as they used to.
And very briefly, don't want you to spoil it, but have you gone for heated seats, or is the money going in a trust fund for uni?
Well, look, a lot of people said that bit about me, whether or not I get a car or start saving for my son. It was absolutely real. And I'll give you an exclusive. I did actually end up getting the new car. I got a Renault Clio hybrid. I'm a comedian. I'm on the road. I said to my son, look, I'll start your university fund next year, but this is actually an investment in your future as much as mine.
Look North exclusive. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Well, now you know the ending. You probably don't need to watch it, but if you want to, Is University Worth It is on BBC Two at 9 o'clock tonight and on the iPlayer.
In the Championship, Leeds move up into second place after that 2-0 win against Sheffield Wednesday on Friday. Whilst at the other end of the table, the Owls remain in a relegation battle with Huddersfield, who lost 4-1 to West Brom, and Rotherham, who are adrift now at the bottom. They lost 5-0 to Norwich City. In League Two, Bradford made its 6 league games unbeaten with a win at Accrington, and Andy Cook fired home his 16th goal of the season to make it 3-0. And Doncaster got a 2-0 win over promotion-chasing Crewe. Take a look at this, Hakeem Adelakam scoring straight from a corner and very much enjoying his celebrations afterwards with some amateur acrobatics. To Rugby League now, and in the Challenge Cup, Sheffield Eagles, Batley Bulldogs, Featherstone Rovers and Halifax Panthers are all through to the next round after this weekend's games. Sheffield Eagles came from behind to clinch a 14-12 victory over the Swinton Lions. This try from Ben Jones-Bishop helping them on their way. And take a look at these pictures from Featherstone v Wakefield, who played in atrocious weather conditions. There was little to separate the teams, and the match went to golden point. And it was Featherstone's Gareth Gale who raced away down the pitch to slide over for a mud-covered win. A dramatic victory for the Rovers in what can only be described as old-school conditions. And the draw for round 6 has just been made, with Super League teams joining the competition. Featherstone will face the current title holders, Lee Leopards. That's a tricky one. And for the rest of the draw, check out the BBC Sport website. Now, the world's top badminton players will be in action for the All England Open from tomorrow, live on BBC Sport. And amongst them will be the Olympic medalist Marcus Ellis, who's from Huddersfield. He starts the tournament in the mixed doubles with his partner Lauren Smith, and he's looking forward to the contest.
I've actually had many good years at the All England, and I've probably, quite honestly, I've played above my level. The most memorable match was 2020. We were almost like down and out, and then in the third set we absolutely rocked it. And it wasn't just the result, it was what was going on in the arena.
And I'll leave you with this gorgeous story. A great-grandfather from Sheffield is thought to be Britain's oldest football referee. Frank Foster is 90, and he's told us he has no plans to give up the game he loves. He had to stop playing football in the 1950s because of a knee injury, but he still referees 3 matches a week in local leagues. Hannah Gray has been to meet him.
I'll look at you to see if you're ready. OK.
Frank Foster doing what he enjoys most. This 90-year-old great-grandfather from Sheffield referees about 3 times a week.
I just love football, being out in the fresh air, and having had 98% mark in the referee exam. I wanted to give that back out, whether it was boys, girls, men or women. I just love it.
Frank played for Bamford Football Club back in the 1950s. After a knee injury, he couldn't play in the team anymore, but he's now in his 44th year of refereeing.
My legs are tired afterwards because I don't have lines people, and I anticipate a move and go with it. And if I get any arguments, I'm straight in, talking to them. I don't talk down to them. That's rubbish, that. Just talk to them naturally.
Spectators are often stunned to learn his age.
It's really hard, isn't it, being a ref? So the fact that he's still doing it at 90 is absolutely amazing. I can't believe it. And he's keeping up with play, which actually some of the younger lads don't even do. So yeah, absolutely brilliant to see him here. Yeah.
It's obviously great for the girls. He's still very mobile, running up and down the pitch. So yeah, it's brilliant.
People my age as a grandparent, I'm a bit envious, really. He's 20 years older than me, and I wish I could do what he's doing now.
An inspiration to us all.
Frank, can we come back and chat to you when you turn 100, and will we still find you refereeing?
As long as you push me wheelchair, I will.
And you're going to continue for as long?
I'm going to continue, yeah. I've got no reasons or intentions of stopping. Age is just a number. It's just a number. Forget how old you are. Do what you can as long as you can.
Determined to keep on handing out those red and yellow cards for as long as he possibly can. Hannah Gray, BBC Look North, Sheffield.
You take care.
You too.
Sound advice there from Frank. Keep doing what you love as long as you can. Frank, how are you 90? You look nothing like a 90-year-old
He's never 90,
person.
he passes for 60.
Looks about your age.
Suddenly, well, thank you very much. Suddenly struck me. Do you think you'll be sat there at 90 doing this?
I can guarantee I will not. I'm not sure I'll even make it past 43.
Right, let's have a look at this then.
How about you? Is more the question, will you be doing
definitely
this?
not. I just hope I'll still be breathing when I get to 90. Right, we've got a couple of pictures to show you. Now, this tells its own story. There is more rain on the way. You remember I told you before I went away that Sheffield had its second wettest autumn on record. Well, Bramham actually had its wettest winter on record, so it's been absolutely remarkable. Still a lot of water around, a little bit of brightness coming through the clouds there, as you can see in Filey, but there's been a cold easterly throughout. Now, that's going to change. So 2 things are going to happen this week. We're going to see more rain, unfortunately, but a taste of spring. Temperatures, perhaps on Thursday, might reach 16 degrees. So at long last, we're going to see some milder air pushing in from the southwest, but no sign at all of any decent dry weather on the horizon. So really the unsettled spell continues with more rain at times. OK, there's a headline for tomorrow. Cloudy with rain and drizzle. We've got a weather system currently pushing in from the southwest. There it is, bringing rain. Miserable day to come tomorrow. This weather front bringing more rain to the Pennines on Wednesday. The east will be dry. And then this is Thursday's chart. These isobars are coming all the way up from the subtropics, so if you live in Doncaster, perhaps eastern parts of North Yorkshire, 16 is possible on Thursday, so it will feel very mild and almost spring-like. Right, there's the satellite picture, a lot of cloud. Tomorrow's weather system just pushing into Ireland right now, so it's going to be quiet this evening and overnight with variable, often large amounts of cloud, but with a few breaks. Might be a bit of mist and patchy fog, just a hint of a touch of ground frost, but some patchy rain onto the top of the Pennines by, say, 6 o'clock in the morning. There's a look at tonight's minimum temperatures. Tomorrow's high water times, Scarborough 5:23, Bridlington at 5:47. So a dry, bright start in the east, but a wet start further west. And then this rain again marches in from the southwest. Extensive low cloud and mist over the hills. I think away from the Pennines, things should improve later in the afternoon, but it's a real miserable affair across the Pennines, and not for the first time in the last few months. It's wet and dismal. After that chilly start, temperatures should reach around 12 Celsius. That's 54 Fahrenheit. A west-east split on Wednesday, patchy rain in the west, brighter further east, and then with a hint of brightness on Thursday, 15 or 16 degrees, in fact, throughout. Even though it stays unsettled into the weekend, temperatures will be well above the mid-March average. That's the forecast.
Frank will be happy because he's out refereeing 3 times this week.
Amazing.
So he'll like those double figures, won't you, Frank? Thanks, Paul. That's it from us. I'll be here with the late news at 10:30. You'll be with me as well, won't you?
I will indeed.
Oh, we'll look forward to it. See you then. Bye.